joined in studio by Karen to discuss all things netball. How are you doing? Welcome to
I'm
our
great.
studio.
Thank you.
Um,
It's fancy and nice. I love
Yeah,
it.
Oh,
good that you
This is
could
my
come
first
in
time.
studio.
it's your first
It's
time?
my first time at this location.
At this location?
At this location.
Oh my goodness. Enjoy the free liquor afterwards.
Okay.
But let's get to business in terms of uh, what do you want to bring to the table and highlighting the deficit at the association at this point in time. We know about the issues in regards to financing and auditing and what have you, and we can get into that a little bit later on. But what is the deficit that you're seeking to eradicate at this point in time?
Well, I definitely want to bring a new face to leadership. I want to have us to have leadership that is definitely more visible. I also want us to be able to stake our claim as one of the leading sports in the country, the leading female sport, obviously, but a sport that touches all parishes, all ages, for netball to be recognized for the value that it brings to the sporting landscape in Jamaica.
Is there an obvious way of doing that? Because at times we feel as if netball has been sleeping, but at the same time, to be fair, we have seen test series returning. We've seen Jamaica hosting the AFNA tournament as well. So I don't necessarily want to be too harsh because at times we've been visible, but how can we become better in your opinion?
To be more consistent, for one. You said sleeping, and maybe you could call us a sleeping giant because the sport is pretty powerful and pretty widespread.
Yes.
But in terms of our organization and what we present to the public, it's not always the best. It's not always at the level that we would like it to be. And so I think it's time for, a new era for netball to take that center stage, to, have the international series. So it's not just about the Sunshine Girls, although they're a very big part of the push for the sport, but it's about what happens in the communities. What does netball mean to youngsters growing up? So that gap that we've seen over the years have been about, not about playing, because netball is played right across Jamaica. It's played at every level. But if you want to go and watch a netball match, do you know where to go? Do you know where our leagues are all the time? So we've definitely had a push in the last few years to increase our international visibility, to bring some of that on home soil, as well as we have to build some muscle in the organization to be able to do more.
But you have been a part of that association,
I
so
have.
why did it become stale?
So one of the things is that sponsorship is an area that we've had to do some definite work on in the last few years. So some of the new visibility that you've seen has come out of us being able to attract additional sponsorship, new sponsorship, to be able to do some of the things that other sports do, to be in the limelight. And maybe it's just we took our eye off the ball a little bit in terms of, governance, and we've had this hanging over our heads about our finances not being, transparent enough, because we haven't had an AGM in 3 years. This is where you present your finances to the country and to your members first and to the country. And there's some implications sometimes that if you can't present those financial records, there's something wrong. And there may not be anything wrong in terms of management, but in terms of reporting, we've definitely had a challenge. And one of my objectives is to put that behind us, to not be talking. The only reason we're talking about finances is to show you how well we've spent the money and how the sport has grown. Not you asking, show me what you've done with it. We want to put that behind us, to go back to the days where we had our AGM every year. We had audited financial reports every year, and then the sport can focus on the growth that is necessary.
Well, you have been the face in terms of marketing and getting sponsorship.
Recently.
Right? And you'd have gotten I'm assuming that you'd have got quite a bit of money as well, which is why you speak so confidently. No, financing is good, right? But because of the fact that there was a lack of insight, or there wasn't enough transparency, would that have caused other sponsors not to get involved with netball?
That's hard for me to say, because, when I go to talk to sponsors, very few of them say, show me your your audited, financials before I make that decision. But they're Jamaicans. They're watching and they're seeing what's happening. So, it may be in the back room that they're talking about this, but that's not what's at the forefront. Is what can netball bring to the table for my brand. Obviously, they'll be more confident if we are checking all the boxes, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, so we can go even harder. So yes, maybe there are sponsors who thought about it and said, every time I hear about netball, it's something about, when are they having their AGM or
especially in recent years.
Right, and I work in marketing. So I know that, sometimes that's a consideration. It's not the biggest one, but it's something that you have to, you want to be able to take that out of the conversation completely and just walk out confidently about your product and your brand, which, Sunshine Girls is a huge brand, as you know. So you want to be able to talk about that and that alone.
True.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been paying a lot of attention to, because the Sunshine Girls, a brand speaks for itself, but the Elite League, the Red Stripe Flavors Elite League, and I've seen a lot of potential in that competition, but I feel like those in charge of it aren't really pushing it to the full potential, because I feel like there are many areas that it can be improved. And like I was watching the competition, and then a couple of players started with a team, and then you no longer saw them. And then I read reports that it had to do with finances again, that same F word. So if you finances, because I feel like
but I would have to put up my hand, because when you said the people in charge of it, we are the people in charge of the Elite League. And yes, one of the challenges we have with the Elite League is to keep the players engaged, the top players in the country engaged, as well as to find the financing to run the league the way it should be. It's the only semi-professional league that we run. The other leagues are amateur leagues, so to speak, even though some of the same players do play for the clubs in the major part of those divisional leagues. And so sometimes it's about having enough people, because if you look around, if you go to the internationals and you go to the Elite League, it's the same people in terms of who are organizing it. So we have to be able to pull people at a high level into the organization to be able to plan everything. So the people who are planning the internationals have to plan the Elite Leagues as well, find the sponsorship, find money to pay the players, because we pay the players in the Elite League, as well as find prize money, as well as pay for the courts, as well as pay the officials, uniforms. And we've had more sponsors come on this year. Actually, some of them kind of put their, tentative, let's see what it's like, but they're interested, and they like the passion of the netball community, because that's one thing you will get with the netball community is passion and excitement about the sport. So hopefully we can take it to the next level the next year, and the next level the year after that, because it's not supposed to be just a local league. We're supposed to be engaging regional players. We have 2 players this year from outside of Jamaica. The idea has been in the past that we should have the best players from Barbados and Trinidad and St. Lucia
like
coming into the league.
In Jamaica.
Right, but they come and they get paid a salary that they can afford to live here for 2 to 3 months or whatever the time period is. And so that's the objective. So again, it does come down to sponsorship, and it comes down to organizational muscle and being able to manage everything at once. And I think with the right team, we can do it.
Yeah, so I feel like our conversation on the show so far has really surrounded money and sponsorship and all of that. What else? What other areas, Karen, are you looking to target when that time comes? Right.
So for me, the grassroots development of the sport is important, and we don't want to talk about money again. It takes money, but that takes organization. That takes a vision of a structure, of putting a structure in place where we can have, for one, parish organizations. We don't have that now. We've had them before. They've come and they've gone. We've had fledgling ones start up. They develop their own club system, their member system, and then they kind of fall by the wayside because we don't have the structure to give them the support where they can build to stand on their own. So we definitely have to put some work into that, because grassroots netball is played in all kinds of communities right across Jamaica. whether it's you're playing at school or you're playing in what they call a corner league or bush netball, they like to, bush league, we like to call it.
Yeah.
You say that too in Trinidad, okay. There are a lot of people who play at all levels. They play in their community, they play at school, they play in club, they play business house, they play at national level. You'll be surprised. So one of the visions is to tap into that structure, to create a structure around that, because when we're recruiting players, they come from all across Jamaica, even though our organization tends to be very Kingston, urban-based, not just Kingston. Kingston, St. Catherine, Clarendon is where most of our clubs and members come from, and a few from out of town. But some of our players come from all over. So yes. Janelle and Shamira are from St. James. So how did they get into the national program? They had to literally move to Kingston as schoolgirls to be a part of the program. So there's a lot of potential and a lot of work to be done, but I believe if we have the right people and the right structure in place, it's not going to be an overnight thing, but definitely that is one of the areas of focus.
Yeah, you speak about the grassroots, and then I tried to link it in my mind while you were saying that to the turnout when the Sunshine Girls are playing here in Jamaica.
Yes.
I had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, to watch a Sunshine Girls match and look at how the entire of Jamaica rallies behind the team. And I know it's because of the good performances of the girls, right? But Karen, I feel like there's a certain high when they're playing. And I'm going to ask you, and I know maybe you don't have the answer, but how do you keep that high within the Jamaican population? Because I feel like then you can get the corporate sponsors to give you their money, right?
So you hit the nail on the head, because as you said, when you're at a netball match, the energy is unmatched. There are no matter which sport is your favorite, Donald, everything. Whether it's football, cricket, track and field, it's a very different energy. And of course, obviously, if the girls are doing well, then that helps, right? But even when they're just doing okay, you're going to get a certain level of energy. If you watch the Suncorp Australian League, you'll see that they're filling stadiums with for league matches, right? Yeah. So we don't have the time yet where you're coming to an elite league match and we're confident that we can put it in an NISC and fill that space. So the challenge, as you said, is to transfer some of that gradually through the development of the league, through other programs to develop our coaches and officials, so that you're getting that coaching consistently right throughout the whole sport, so that when people are planning to leave and come and watch an elite league match because they know they're seeing the highest that we have to offer locally. Yes. And then when we need to link more to schoolgirl netball. For me, I've said, ISA does a great job with all of their properties. I want to work with them on schoolgirl netball, because it's only at the end that they probably move into the arena. Again, it's probably funding, it's interest, it's how you map it out. People go to schoolboy football, they'll go to champs. Where are they at schoolgirl netball? So how do we work with those organizations to make sure that we have a map that's tracking the player right from the start at that level right through elite leagues into international?
That was going to be my next point, because you just went straight into it about your relationship with ISA, right? Yes. And I'm sure at times you're probably looking on a little bit jealous because the champs being broadcast for all 5 days at schoolboy
jealous
football.
Is not the word.
Jealous is not the word? You're wondering why.
Bad mind.
Right? Absolutely. I get it. So how do you bridge that gap? Because as you see, when it's broadcast on television, especially on the Home of Champions, it's electric, it's wonderful to watch. So why hasn't that really been translated to say netball is actually probably the biggest thing in terms of support and excitement in Jamaica? Why don't we see it regularly, including at the schoolgirl level?
So that's a conversation we want to have with ISA, but we have to, they manage those sports independently, right? But there's always a link to, somewhat to the national body in terms of what is it going to look like when those players move to the next level? What are you investing in them at this level to make sure that you're helping to create that pool? So I don't feel like it's a hard conversation to have with them at all. We've just not been able to get to that place where we have the conversation and say, hey, here's the ideas we have. What are the ideas you have? what are the sponsors looking for? Because maybe for schoolgirl netball, they're looking for something different, right? But I've been to the schoolgirl netball finals, and it's pot cover moments there,
I
right?
like that,
Because
you know. The pot cover lady is my friend now.
she may not be there, but I mean, in terms of the excitement that the girls bring to support their schools. The last one I was at, I saw all the Manning Cup guys coming in to come support their school because St. Catherine was playing in the finals. So, you know, they bridge that gap. But what are we doing? What are we as the body doing to have that engagement with a body like ISA to make sure that we can both move the sport forward? So,
one final question before we let you go. Janelle Fowler-Nemod had posted, it was something in humor in the height of the athletes transferring or putting in their bid to transfer from Jamaica to Turkey, right? And she said it in jest that where can we get this offer? Now, sometimes in jest, there's a little bit of truth in it in terms of how can netballers be better provided for. Obviously, you probably wouldn't take that anyway per se, based on the fact that it is in jest. But is there something to say about our captain highlighting that, and as a body, you trying to put them at ease financially and otherwise?
So I saw it and I understood it, right? Because as the national netballers, I would say probably don't get anywhere near their due in terms of remuneration for the work that they put in.
So send them to Turkey?
No.
Okay.
Nobody's going to Turkey. Ain't nobody going to Turkey over there. If we can do anything to help it. So again, we have to make sure when we have a World Cup here, they probably get a stipend. That's as far as it goes. And when they come back, the government sometimes rewards them, and sometimes we put aside money from sponsorship to do some of that as well. But we have to become more consistent around it. They have to be, you know, if I'm a national, international player, I'm playing at the highest level, I want to know that I can put my pot on the fire as well for my family. And they have families, right? And when it's a female sport, it's even more important. They are the driving force in their families. So we also have to do a better job of making sure that they get that support, so you don't have any chance of anybody eyeing Turkey don't have no netball team, thank God, but not yet, and they will not in Jesus' name. But we want corporate Jamaica, right, to recognize the value that these athletes bring to Jamaica. It's not just about the sport. These guys are superstars. Them can't go supermarket in Australia, you know. They can't just walk out and say, I'm going to go shopping. They're getting mobbed. They're a big deal, right? So we need to make sure that we are providing them with that recognition and reward. And that's definitely at the, you know, very near to the top of the list of some of the things that we want to work on in this new administration.
You have your work cut out, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to avoid us when you become president, right?
Avoid you? Never.
Okay.
Never.
Well, we can find you, you know, we have vehicles. We can come.
You've never had a difficulty finding me, our partners, SportsMax.
Thank you so much, Karen Rosenbaugh.
Thank you.
Well, she's the only candidate at this point in time for presidency for Netball Jamaica. And I think the deadline is sometime tonight.
Tomorrow morning at 10 for nominations. 10.
So let's see what happens in the next few hours. But thanks so much, Karen, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We take a break, back with